Hey guys, what we're going to be doing today, we are going to be talking about Punnett Squares. Alright, so here we go. This is going to be a tool that we're going to be using a lot in the next week and a half, and so I do want to make sure that you go ahead and take really good notes. You want to make sure that you're writing this down in your notebook because you're going to need them in class. And then once you're done, then you can go ahead and fill out the form. But please make sure you're taking notes in your notebook, and please see if you can start practicing using the Cornell method. Alright, so many of you probably have wondered, why do you have, your mom's eyes or your dad's ears? In this case, Ty, happens to have mom's chin and dad's nose. But the question is, why? And so it all comes down to what we're going to be talking about, and this should be a little bit of a review. It comes down to our cells. Yes, we're still talking about the cells, but we're specifically talking about the nucleus of the cell. Remember, we've learned that the nucleus is the place that has all the instructions for the cell. It has all the blueprints for the cell, and so it has all the instructions for how to do everything. And those instructions are called your DNA, those blueprints. That's your DNA. And so I want to make sure we understand that this DNA is extremely important, not only to solve crimes, but it's also explaining you. It has the instructions for making your blue eyes or your nose. There's a lot of it in a cell. And so in order to go ahead and keep it so it doesn't get tangled up or anything else, it's coiled up. And it's coiled up in these structures that are called chromosomes. Now, the chromosomes, since they're coiled up pieces of DNA, sections of that DNA or sections of that chromosome actually have instructions for your traits. So the whole chromosome itself doesn't control just one trait, it controls many traits. So as you can see here, the chromosome's kind of colored in bands, different shades of gray and black, to kind of give you that idea that there's small sections of that chromosome or DNA that actually control and have the instructions for your trait. So let's say this one is going ahead and talking about freckles. You actually could have a recessive gene for freckles from one parent and a dominant gene for freckles from another parent. And so it's these combination of instructions found on our chromosomes that are called genes that actually help us determine what we have. And so we have to have two in order for us to be able to get at least our basic genetic information. And so I want to make sure that we understand this all comes down to how you get those chromosomes. An egg and a sperm unite. And the important part that we haven't talked about is that there's a number of chromosomes that help us identify organisms. In the human cell, we typically have 46 chromosomes. But how we get those 46 chromosomes all comes down to basic principles. You get 23 from your mom that are found in the egg, and you get 23 from dad that are found in the sperm. And when that egg and that sperm unite, that is the beginning of you. Half comes from your mom, half comes from your dad. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this knowledge, and we can actually use this information if we happen to know our genotypes. We can actually use this information to help predict what the offspring could have. And this is extremely important and helpful when you happen to have certain genetic traits in your family that could possibly cause health concerns. So here we have a male rat, and it has fur color of brown. And then the female rat, fur pattern of black. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and what would happen if this male and this female actually did mate? What were the chances that the offspring would look like the dad? And what were the chances that the offspring would look like the mom? So this is what we do. We all start with a Punnett square. This is a tool that's going to help us predict what the genotypes and phenotypes are of our offspring. And so if you notice, it's just really a basic square that's divided into 4 quadrants. All right, now that you know how to use a Punnett square, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how to read Punnett squares. It's one thing to go ahead and fill one out, but then you have to actually be able to make sense of it. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look, and you see that this is a completed Punnett square. And so we have two purple flowers that we bred together, and we're trying to predict what the offspring would look like. So if you look at this, you'll notice that 3 of the 4 boxes have a big B, which represents purple. And only 1 of the boxes has a little b, which represents white. And so you'll be able to see we have 3 out of 4 that's purple. You can turn that into a percent and predict that 75% of the offspring of this cross or mate combination is actually going to turn out to be purple. And since we only have 1 out of the 4 boxes that happens to have total recessive genes or alleles, it's going to be white. We're only going to have 25%. So notice we can go ahead and start to use this information to help us predict what the offspring would look like. Let's take another example. All right, so here's another practice. We have a yellow pea plant and we have a green pea plant. Now notice the yellow pea plant is actually a hybrid. When we go ahead and complete the Punnett square, we'll be able to see that we can actually have 2 out of the 4 boxes are actually showing a dominant trait, showing yellow. So we would expect to see 50% of this offspring, if we cross-pollinated them, would have yellow pea pods. And 2 out of the 4 would also have green pea pods. So we would see a 50-50% chance of having either trait. And so this Punnett square really helps us understand the possible combinations of the genotypes and phenotypes that the offspring would have. And so it makes us have better decisions as to whether we should have those particular items cross-pollinate, or if this case we're talking about animals, we can go ahead and talk about if they should breed. What I need to make sure that we're doing is that we're ready for class, and we will start practicing in class. Have a good day.